So now, ladies and gentlemen, live and in colour, it's Mr. Wayne Lovejuice.
The other day our producer Louis had a chat with an interesting chappie who said that the YouTube algorithms really aren't that happy. If a channel only broadcasts once a week, so we decided we could text ya whenever we've got a piece of news in our new book on the track Xtra. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we've got two old friends come to visit us in the studio today. It's Cara and it's Ralph the Monster. What are you here to do today, Cara and Ralph the Monster?
So Ralph, what's coming up? Book review.
As regular viewers of this educational show, which tries its best to bring you a melange, if you like, of hard science, weird shit, and surreality, will know, every time my old friend and colleague Richard Freeman comes to visit, he goes and raids the CFZ library, which is upstairs, and which I have some video, but I haven't shown you all yet, of Richard Muirhead explaining the latest changes. It will be done soon, I promise. And if I don't do it, somebody bully me into it, please. Because I'm becoming a silly old fool who needs to be bullied. But whenever Richard's here, he brings down books from the library, and we do book reviews. And in this particular one, we're going to look at something very controversial. Richard, what's this week's book?
The Highgate Vampire by Sean Manchester.
Richard, you sound overjoyed to be reviewing that book. You sound really full of the joys of spring, like you're skipping like a young mountain goat through the fields.
This is less of a book and more of a collection of pompous, swell-headed, self-aggrandising bullshit. Sean Manchester paints himself as a cross between Lord Byron and Dr. Van Helsing in this book. He claims to have literally staked literal Hammer horror type vampires and watched them crumble to dust after he staked them. He claims to have fought a vampire in the shape of a giant demonic spider. This girl here, he claimed was a Polish girl called Elizabeth who had been victimised by the vampire. It would visit her from Highgate Cemetery every night and suck her blood, and finally she died before he could save her. Well, she was tracked down. They actually tracked down the actress that posed for this decades later, and she's perfectly fine. It's just a pack of lies, and what's worse than that, it's a pack of lies that strokes the ego of Sean Manchester. Now, Sean Manchester had a great rival with David Farrant, both of whom were involved in the case of the Highgate Vampire. And I write about the Highgate Vampire in my new book, The Highest Strangeness, and something weird was going on there. But the difference is that David Farrant was a complete gentleman. He was not an egotistical nut. He thought that what was going on was some sort of spirit, like an incubus, that was draining energy off people. Whereas Sean Manchester thinks it's a real Hammer horror style living corpse that can shapeshift and crawls out of its grave at night to suck the blood of people. There is not a shred of evidence for anything he writes about in this book. And what's more, over the years he's shown himself to be a nasty piece of work. He's threatened a disabled child and his mother because they liked playing Dungeons and Dragons, and he thought it was satanic. He's set himself up as a bishop of the old Roman Church. he's threatened to sue people time and time again, but the solicitors he's using don't even exist. I wouldn't use this book as toilet paper. I wouldn't have it taking up room on my shelf of 14 literature. Try Beyond the Highgate Vampire by David Farrant, because it's a million times better.
Stop holding back, Richard. Tell it like it is.
It's garbage, and the man is a pompous, nasty, egotistical idiot.
One of the strange things about the book is that although the original paperback edition was still as full of self-aggrandizement and unlikely goings-on, it was far better written. And I used to really enjoy reading the original paperback book. But when I got the hardback, for some reason it has been re-edited, so all the daring do in it, all the bits that came over as something really and swashbuckling, and hey, here we have a real life bishop who's going around fighting the fighting demons. By the way, again, let me stress, I didn't believe any of it, but it was much more fun to read. I had dealings with Sean Manchester about 10 years ago when we put out the book by the late Kai Roberts about Robin Hood's grave in Kirklees, which I think Northamptonshire, Richard?
I can't remember.
Somewhere in the North or North Midlands. And Sean Manchester took exception to that and started to threaten me and CFZ Press. I decided to play an experiment, and rather than telling him to go fuck himself, I answered his queries and did my best to make it sound like I was interested in his concerns, to see if it was possible to be able to make up some sort of dialogue with him. And he and I ended up chatting in a relatively friendly manner for some months until the book was published and it all fizzled out. Again, he never actually directly threatened me with legal action, but the hint was always there. And I can understand why so many people dislike the man. What I find sad, as a Christian myself, is that to a whole generation of goths, arty weirdos and vampire freaks, he has poisoned Christianity, because he has been the big avatar, if you like, of Christianity that all of them have known, and it's put them all off Christianity because the guy is such a poisonous dick. Anything else to say, Richard?
Not really, no, other than to reiterate that. Other than to
Reiterate.
Yes. That David Farrant is the go-to guy on the Highgate Vampire. I mean, he's passed away now, but his widow Delia Farrant is still around, and his works are still available.
Now, as I was putting this episode together with Miss Isabel and the dog, I had a message from another old friend of mine, Timothy Wayne Williams, who's a very, very cool artist. And he has a limited edition fine art calendar for 2024, all about cryptids. And you can get it at this link below. Have a look at it. Some of these pictures are utterly gorgeous, and I'm a real fan of his work, and I've been trying to work out a way that I can have him on the show for months and months, because I really like his paintings. So guys, go out, buy it. Well, you probably noticed that I just took a slice out of last Wednesday's show about Timothy Wayne Williams and his calendar, because it wasn't that I was putting together this show, I was putting together last week's show, but it's still a bloody fantastic calendar, and I strongly recommend that you all go out and buy it, because it is helping a struggling artist, which is always a really good thing to do. That's about it for this episode. I'll be back again on Saturday. What's going to be on Saturday? Well, I do know part of what's going to be on Saturday, because part of it's going to be part 2 of the interview which I did with Simon and Thomas from Hit Denmark. And it's a very, very interesting interview, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. What else is on Saturday? I don't know. You're just going to have to wait and see. But there'll be something else jolly, I expect. And what's going to be on next Wednesday? Oh, don't ask me. That's far too far ahead. But what was I trying to say? I've completely lost the thread of what I was thinking. Oh yes, I know. I was going to say that there's only one thing left to say, because if you're going to be watching this, are you listening, Mr. McCrillan? If you're going to be watching this, Mr. McCrillan, and I'm going to be doing the live chat and sitting in being jolly with you guys, then I'll be seeing you.